It's a day of mourning in the Russian capital. Hundreds of people gathered outside a church in Moscow and are bracing arrests by authorities for paying tribute to opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who died in prison 2 weeks ago. Tensions were high ahead of the funeral service. Metal crash barriers surrounded the church with dozens of police vehicles parked nearby. The Kremlin said any unsanctioned gathering for Navalny's funeral would violate the law, warning mourners against staging a protest. Previous gatherings of Navalny's supporters have been broken up by force. So far, more than 400 people have been arrested at events paying tribute to the Russian opposition leader. Navalny's supporters have accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of murdering him, but the Kremlin has denied any involvement in his death. For more, let's talk to Dasha Chernyshova. She's in Moscow. Dasha, hundreds have shown up to pay their respects, and that's despite facing the risk of arrest. What does that show about the public sentiment towards Alexei Navalny?
Well, that certainly proves that he did have many allies, and we understand most of them have made it their way to the church and the Moscow's region of Marina, where we are at the moment. The mobile internet has been shut off close to this church, and it was simply impossible to report from there, so we had to move about 700 meters away from this church. Now, we understand that the funeral is now over. The body of Alexei Navalny, labeled as terrorist and extremist, was brought to this church, and only his family members, as well as a couple of dozens of other close friends and relatives, have been allowed inside that church. Other people have been queuing outside the church. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have made the line almost 1 kilometer long. They all had flowers wishing to say farewell to Alexei Navalny. They also were expecting that they will be allowed inside the church, but that did not happen. His body was taken out after the funeral was over. People have been throwing flowers at the coffin, and then the body was taken to the cemetery. It is now at the Borisovskaya cemetery, and people are marching all the way. It's about 20 minutes walk all the way from the church to the cemetery, raising their flowers above their heads. So certainly it does say a lot about the public sentiment here in Russia, but it also means that the story of Alexei Navalny is over, even though we have heard that Yulia Navalny, the widow of Alexei Navalny, said she will be continuing what her husband was doing.
Dasha, how has the Kremlin reacted to the proceedings of this funeral today?
Well, we've heard the Kremlin warning the Russians against taking any unsanctioned actions, and we also have heard the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov saying that the Kremlin has nothing to say, nothing to tell the family of the late opposition leader. So the Kremlin was relatively calm. We are yet to hear for the official reason, for the official cause of Alexei Navalny's death. It has not been announced other than something like natural cause. So we haven't heard about the results of the investigation that have been taking place over 8 days since the body, for which the body was in the hands of the investigators, and while the family and allies of Alexei Navalny were demanding their body to be given to them. So the Kremlin has remained silent. As we have seen here in Marina district, the funeral has been pretty much in line with the law. No major irregularities have been reported by the Russian authorities. However, the children at the nearby schools and kindergartens were all advised to stay inside, not to get to the streets.
Dasha, thank you for that update. Dasha Chernyshova there in Moscow.